Nice. So, welcome. This is another iteration of me talking about all things Colony developers. In the past weeks, I've been working on a thing called Colony SDK, and its main focus is to get people started with Colony or building on top of Colony very, very quickly. We had a library before called Colony.js, and I wrote most of that as well. But in the end, we figured that Colony.js it's basically just the contracts mirrored. So it has all the functionality that the contracts have, but that's not necessarily what people want when they're just starting out, kind of getting their feet wet in Colony development or Web3 development in general. And that would be quite intimidating for a lot of people. So what I decided is create something that is built with Colony.js in the back, but has a nicer abstraction and makes a lot of the hard decisions for you. And it should cover like the most relevant use cases and the most like popular use cases of Colony. It's just in the early stages. I haven't gotten to version 1.0 yet, but it's getting there. I'm covering more and more ground of Colony.js. But the thing is that I really want to be thoughtful here about what I am including and what I'm kind of leaving out for later, so that people kind of can grasp this thing early on and will not be like overwhelmed by the amount of information. If at any point in time you have questions, just ask, just interrupt me. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be like a very formal thing. I'm just going to like present for the next, I don't know, 30 minutes, 1 hour, what's there, and yeah, just feel free to ask questions at any point. So I opened Colony SDK here, and this is kind of the main GitHub page for it. We still need a logo for it. As you can see, this is kind of looks kind of weird. So the first thing you might want to do is check out the examples, because what I try to do is that when people start out with something, the easiest thing for a lot of developers is just to like see code and like really simple code. What is possible, and how can I like interact with this thing very, very quickly. So what I included is a bunch of examples that get you going really quickly and that cover certain use cases, and so that you can basically just start developing right away, or just check out what it can and cannot do. So let me show you some of the examples. And the cool thing about this is you can just check out the examples in your browser, basically. So let me open another window here, and so obviously I cloned the repository. That might be the first thing you want to do. There's also like a guide to walk you through this, but yeah, you can also just follow along in this video. So basically, just clone this repository. This is what I did. It's the only thing I did. I'm using a correct Node version, but I don't think it matters for this use case, because we are running everything in the browser anyways. And what you can do is just do npm run example :browser, and it will bundle everything and run the example in the browser. So this is kind of the example now, the main page of the examples. We also have examples for Node.js, but there's just one, because I feel like most of people will be like more interested in browser-based interactions. So this is where we are. The examples are not very pretty. Please bear with me here. Maybe I find some time to give them a little bit of better styling, or maybe you find some time to give a little bit of a better styling. But this is how they look now, and have to kind of deal with it. So you can see here, this actually interacting is running on your local machine, but it's actually interacting with live colonies on the XDAI chain. So some of these examples also make transactions. That means if you actually want to use them or go through the full example workflow, then you need some XDAI. We also have some local examples that I can show you later if you're interested. But for the main examples, I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people who have XDAI in this case for sure. So yeah, just check them out. And we're going through these first. So this is just a very basic example. We can look for the funding of a colony on XDAI. So let me quickly open my test colony here. This is just the this is just the deployed colony on XDAI. So this is all live, and you can see I've like made a lot of tests here, and we should be able to see 99.58. Whatever this CT is, I don't remember what I named them, but yeah, let's just copy this colony address and oh, actually no, let's just check first, and you see okay, there's 0.0 CLNY funding because we're actually checking for CLNY here. This might be a good use case. Let me show you the code for this because this is what I wanted to do anyways. Just to show you how easy it is to actually connect to a colony and check its funding. So you can see in the examples, browser, source, and then we have all the examples. What we are looking at is basic. And then you'll see here, these 14 lines of code is basically everything you need to do. I mean, there's 14 lines with some spaces, so it's actually less. You can see that we need Ethers. Ethers is a library to connect to Web3. You might be familiar with it or not, but all of the Colony SDK, Colony.js is all based around Ethers because we think it's the way to do it. Some people might disagree, but well, this is how it is. We are basically just connecting creating a new provider, connecting directly to the Colony RPC endpoint. So this is the important part here to know. We need to connect to basically any XDAI RPC endpoint, but if we directly connect to the Colony one, we will see the results that we're looking for faster. So make any changes to the chain, it might sometimes take some time to propagate through all of the nodes. And if we're directly connecting to the Colony node, then we will see things in real time, or as close to real time as possible. And this is doing nothing else than getting connected to the Colony network. It's basically what this does. We get the colony with the colony address that the user typed into the input field, and we get the funding of the colony. And in this case, we are getting the funding in the CLNY deployed on Gnosis. So we have some shortcuts in Colony.js where you can basically just access some very important tokens on certain chains. So here we have the address for CLNY on Gnosis chain. If you look into it, this is the address on chain. It's nothing else. So you can also just paste in an address here. That's fine. And then we just format it because the funding is in way, and we just want to see it in a like user-friendly way. So what I wanted to show you is that we can now basically remove this. And as I said, Colony SDK tries to make sane assumptions of what users might want to do. So when I ask for the colony balance without any arguments, then it's certainly, I would expect that it just gives me the balance in the native token of the colony, which is also what we see here as the first thing if we look at the colony page. So let's save this and look at it again. We have to paste in the address again. And we see that we have 98.67, and that's that should actually reflect this. I have no idea why it's not the case. Maybe some weird caching issue. And it says CNNY because this is what I hard coded in here. You can see that CNNY. You can also get like the token symbol, but I mean that's not really the case. Everything you see like below this line is just the HTML and button wiring up. It's just vanilla JavaScript DOM interactions. There's nothing special going on really. But the only like the important part you have here basically. Any questions so far? Is this all clear? Is this all cool? So the question was whether there's a way to get all the possible coins in a colony at the same time. So currently, no. There is a way in which this is like possible. Obviously, we don't really store. There's no central way of seeing which tokens are in a colony. You kind of have to look at transactions and all of this kind of stuff, but the contracts don't really tell us that. But we maintain token lists for colonies on IPFS, and there's actually an issue on Colony SDK where we want to add IPFS support. That means if we have that, then we can access these token lists and look for all of the tokens that at least are in this token lists. And these are the token lists that people define when they look here. I think somewhere you can define them. Sorry, I'm not super comfortable here. I think manage, maybe here, maybe here. No, it changes all the time also. Oh, manage tokens, this is where we are. So this is like I think this is like a token list that we provide, and then you can choose your colony's tokens, and this is something that we could potentially access in Colony SDK as soon as we have IPFS support. And then we could potentially also have a method to get all of the fundings, which would take a considerable amount of time, but that definitely should be possible then. Right now, you can just get it for one token, and you have to call it again. But that's kind of the way you have to do it anyways, just multiple times. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Aaron just chimed in basically saying the token balances are stored in the token contracts and not centrally in the colony with contract, which makes sense. So that you have like access to all of the tokens if you like. Yeah. So this was nice and fun, but let's look at something else. I think this is a good time to mention that there's documentation. So I'm trying to maintain a good documentation for the Colony SDK, trying to not assume too much pre-existing knowledge. I think you should be familiar with some terms in Web3 and how like certain things are laid out, and certain things are like you have to have some sort of mental model of how certain things work. But in general, I try to explain most of the things that are happening in the background in the documentation. So when you look at the documentation, I think the most important references here is the Colony network, which is what you connect to when you try. This is kind of your main entry point for the Colony to contracts. So you just create a new Colony network, and you can only have one of those because it doesn't make sense to have more, because there's just one contract that you're talking to like this. And this is giving you the option to then get certain colonies, and that will create instances of the Colony class for you. That means you can create a bunch of those and just interact with them at the same time. This is actually what we're doing in the dApp. So you can get a colony just by pasting in its address, and then you're good to go, and then you have a colony abstraction. And with that you have a lot of power also already in the Colony SDK. So let's look at this really quick. So yeah, this is the Colony class. It has an address, a version, because Colony contracts are versioned. So we try to keep things clean and not support all of the versions in the Colony SDK. But if you have a like fairly recent Colony version, then you're good to go with this. And then you can already see which methods we are already supporting in Colony SDK. There's going to be a lot more to come, but I'm kind of trying to add things on the go as we need them, or as the community demands it. So we have like we can create a team, we can get the balances, what we just saw. You can get reputation, and I think this is one thing I want to show in the very end. This is quite a fairly complex and involved example, but this is kind of a neat thing you can do to just see how the Colony reputation is awarded, and that you can actually like see that people are getting rewarded reputation while after you paid them. We'll look into this later. So yeah, this is the Colony. Again, I tried to document all of the parameters fairly well, and also give some helpful examples if needed. So if you're stuck, like look into that documentation. There should be a lot to gain from it. Also, yeah, if you have any beef with it, the documentation, just tell me. I can certainly improve it at cases. All right. So, any questions up until here? Is there anything you wanna comment on or add? Cool. Then let's quickly look at another example. And that is, I think this is going to be interesting for a lot of people, connecting to Metamask. Because you almost certainly want to have some sort of connection to Metamask in your application when you're developing with Colony in the browser. So I have a fairly simple example to like showcase that as well. I'm going to show the code soon. I'm just going to show you what it does. So I click connect to Metamask, and then the browser asks me to connect my account, and I'm allowing that because it's just my development account. And you can already see here that we use Metamask to connect to the Meta Colony, which is deployed on XDAI. So because we are connected in MetaMask, we are connected to Gnosis chain, we can immediately access all of the functionality through MetaMask already without not needing to connect to the RPC endpoint manually. If you want to add the Colony chain RPC node, the Colony Gnosis chain RPC node to your MetaMask, I have made a handy way to do that in the examples index homepage. You just click this link, Colony RPC endpoint, and this should actually add all of this stuff to MetaMask. And then you should be good to go to use that endpoint. So again, we're here and we click connect. Now we're already connected, and we're there. So let's look at this example in detail. It's not much more, to be honest, than the other one. The two tricky things or maybe three tricky things for MetaMask are creating the provider with ethers, because Colony SDK needs ethers. So what we need to do is wrap the Web3 provider that ethers provides and turn over the window.ethereum. Window.ethereum is what MetaMask provides in order to connect to it. So on every website, when it's there, when it's activated, you have the window.ethereum object, and then you can just use that and wrap that in the provider for ethers. Two more things need to happen to actually connect to it. We need to then on the provider do a send. So we're sending an RPC request which only MetaMask understands, or actually I think more understand, but in this case it's a MetaMask specific thing. MetaMask will answer to this. So MetaMask will say ETH request accounts basically makes MetaMask connect to the page. This is what actually makes the connection happen, and then the underlying provider can get access to your accounts and can know what accounts you have. And this is being done by the getSigner method here. So the signer is the thing that the Colony SDK uses to sign transactions and send them off, and MetaMask provides that for you. So, and that's pretty much already it. The next stuff is basically what we have already seen. We pass in the signer to the Colony network constructor that we had before, and then we basically tell the Colony network to get MetaColony. Get MetaColony is basically exactly the same as get Colony, except that it kind of has the address of the MetaColony stored, which never ever changes. So we don't really need to bother with like finding out the MetaColony's address. So we can just say, "Oh, get MetaColony," and then you're connected to it. Now we could interact with it as we wish. For most of the stuff that we want to do there, we probably don't have permissions anyways, especially not with this account. So this this was the MetaMask example. Any questions regarding that? Yeah, good point. So the question was whether when requesting the accounts, whether you already give it some permission to access your funds. Is what I think. This is what I understood. You're giving it only the permission to see the current address, the currently activated address in MetaMask. I think sometime before it was all of the addresses, but right now I think it's you can only, so the page can only see the currently activated account in MetaMask, which is like this one. And this is all it gets. It basically only gets the public key of this account, nothing more. Okay, cool. Yeah, now I think I want to go over a little bit more resources that are available. I would like to point you to the Colony Starter. I just recently redid that. We had that before, and now then abandoned it for a long time, and now I kind of recreated it. And this is just a GitHub project to get you started with the Colony SDK development. This has only like a tiny build system set up, and it's using the same build system as we're using for the examples here. So if you want to start your own project, you can base it on this one, and it will just be like, you don't have to worry about like how do I build this stuff, what build tool would I be using, or what ethers version or whatever. So you can see in the package JSON that all of the stuff that you need, which is where is it? Dependencies. Yeah, it's just the Colony SDK in the correct version and ethers in the correct version is already set up for you, and some helpful bundling tools so that you can just right off the bat get started with development here. And this is all it does. I just wanted to mention it because tooling is oftentimes a pain, and if you just want to get going and developing something, you don't have to kind of do it in the examples, but you can just download this, start this. I mean, there's there's instructions here on how to use it, and just get going in no time. This is the starter. So if at any point the functionality that Colony SDK provides is not enough for you, you can always fall back to ColonyJS. ColonyJS has all the functionality that the Colony contracts currently provide. It's kind of, I try to always keep it up to date with the currently deployed version of the contracts. And ColonyJS will be installed when you install Colony SDK. That means whenever you feel like, oh, this is not powerful enough, then you can always fall back to ColonyJS, which is installed for you when you have Colony SDK, so you don't have to like kind of switch between them or anything. So you can basically just use it. And it also has a documentation which is fairly overwhelming, but it has, because it's like everything, that's why it's so big. And you can see here the currently it is deployed here. I will put it in another place at some point that is more accessible, but right now it's here, and you have the full documentation to everything that is currently possible with the Colony contracts in ColonyJS. So yeah, fairly involved, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you want to do more outside of the Colony SDK capabilities. Yeah. Any questions regarding these resources that I just showed? Otherwise, I am going to now show the last example that I have for today, which is the reputation example, which is quite fun, and I hope it will work. Sometimes it's a bit messy because there's a lot of setup, but yeah. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so for the following example is something that we can currently only run locally. I mean, we can run it also on XDAI, but it will take a lot of time and a lot of waiting, and it's a bit annoying. I mean, we cannot do a screencast and then wait for a couple of hours for the reputation to settle. So what we are going to do is deploy the Colony contracts locally, and then access them locally on this machine within an example of Colony SDK. Don't worry, I did that already. So I deployed them locally. It takes a little bit of time. If you want to do that yourself, it's all in here. So the Colony network has its own Gitbook documentation as well. And under Quick Start, you see how to set it up, how to set up the Colony network locally, or basically here you will see how you clone the repository and install all the dependencies, and here you can see how to deploy it, and then run your own local RPC endpoint, which is fun. In the end, what we want to do is, this is like the third step in this guide, would be to run the reputation oracle locally. So the reputation oracle is basically, you can also call it the reputation miner. It's kind of the same thing. It just also provides a nice interface that where you can ask it for a reputation for a certain user in a certain colony. And we're setting this up locally so that we can easily access it, and we don't have to worry about timing issues. And we don't have to spend XDAI, which is also nice. But it's a bit involved to actually get it going. But I feel like this guide should help you out. If you have any questions, again, just reach out to me. It's totally fine. I did that already, so you can see here I started the blockchain client, which is Ganache, which runs our own Ethereum node, like a development node, and it answers to RPC requests that we can do with the Colony SDK. And I also started the reputation oracle, which is now running on port 3000. If you see any errors like this, that's totally fine if you're on a development chain, because development chains, Ganache will not mine if you don't tell it to, except you have this kind of set up. But it will never mine except when you tell it to mine, which makes sense because you always only want stuff to happen when you also made changes to the chain. So if it hasn't seen a block for 5 minutes, that's totally fine, because there was none, at least not locally. Cool. So I have that set up, and now we can actually go into, this is also to be found in the examples of Colony SDK, and that is the reputation example. So you can see from the wall of text, this is quite involved, but I'm kind of guiding you through this so you don't have to read all this right now. First, we connect to the Colony network. That is done by finding out the Colony network address first. Because we just deployed it locally, we don't know. Every time we deploy it, it changes. So we check out a file that was created in our Colony network repository, and we just copy the EtherRouter address here. And this is basically the address for the Colony network, the entry point that we need. So if we now connect to it, we should hopefully get a proper message here. It does some other stuff in the background, and if it says that, then it's fine. What I can show you the code later, I think, and then I'm gonna explain it a little bit more. But right now, let's just go through with this here. So what we have now is we actually connected to the local meta colony, and because we created it, we have full access to it. That means we can actually mint our own local CLNY now. Isn't that cool? So we mint 10 CLNY. Oh, let's make it 100. It's fine. And you can see we funded the meta colony locally. Now we have 100 CLNY. And now we can actually pay someone. We can pay any account 10 CLNY. And why not make it like my own Metamask account? It doesn't matter. Metamask will not show it because it's not connected to the right chain, but it doesn't matter here. It just needs to be a valid address at this point. And we pay myself 10 CLNY from the meta colony. And you can see there's the successfully paid 10 CNY. So now it gets a little bit tricky, and this is why we have to deploy it locally, because the reputation mining cycle takes only place every hour, and we need 2 cycles for all of this to kind of settle and to show for the reputation oracle to show the actual reputation. That means I left instructions here to actually see what to do. We need to forward the time in the ganache, and that's because it's a development server. We can just do that. We can basically just say, oh, now it's 1 hour later, and you should have mined such an amount of blocks now. But that's basically what we're doing when we're pressing this button. We just forward time for 1 hour. So let's at the same time see what the reputation oracle is doing. You can see when we paid myself, we see that we got a new reputation hash. And if we now forward time, yeah, it says, ooh, this was a hell of a ride. The miner says now, oh, it looks like it's time to confirm the new hash. And then we have new reputation hash confirmed. And that's what it basically does every hour in real life. And because we need 2 cycles, we just do that again now. And this might take a little bit longer actually, and I'm taking questions during that amount of time. If you have any, please let me know. Otherwise, we will just watch this in silence. Take time to process everything. So the question was whether we mine reputation for 1 colony or for all the colonies. That is actually for all of the colonies. So for all of the colony network. So the miner will pick up all of the transactions that happen across all colonies. So yeah, so the question was that we can expect the reputation to be live after 2 hours. I would say yes, but I know that it was a longer time before, and actually it should be just an hour. As far as I'm concerned, I have to check back with Alex here maybe, but as far as I'm concerned, it should just be an hour, to be honest. The 2 hours is just when it happens for the very, very first time, when it has never mined anything before, which is the case in our case. So it's 1 hour, and for all of the colonies, yes. Okay. I think we might need to do it one more time, because the premise here is that we need to see this message twice. So let's do it one more time, just to be sure. It might be working already. Yeah, so new reputation hash confirmed. This is what we need to see. And now is the next step, the last step in this example is get a user's reputation. And let's try to see this. Yes, press this button, and you see the user with when my address has 10 reputation points. If you do this in some more blocks, like if we forward time even more, we will see that this is also going to decline. So sorry, can you repeat the question? Yes, so it should be 100 reputation points if I made a payment of 100 CNY. In this example, I funded the Meta Colony with 100 CNY, basically minted 100 CNY, and then I paid to myself 10 CNY. So we get 10 reputation points. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's that. That's this fun little example. I hope yeah, some of you will also just try this at home. This is encouraged. This is one thing that you can try at home. If it doesn't, to show the decay. Yeah, I think it should just be like if we go further in time and then maybe go even further in time and even go further in time, then this is, we have to kind of wait for the reputation miner to pick it up now and mine all the next couple of blocks, but I think it should show. But I think we can just get back to that because it's still doing stuff. Yeah, we can get back to that once we're there. Cool. That was kind of the, actually it was kind of the last example that I wanted to show. If you have any other questions around anything, feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, I might show you some other things that we're working on and that you can check out. Okay, cool. The very last thing that I wanted to show you is that we are actually working on a Discord bot. And this Discord bot is built on Colony SDK. It uses a lot of the examples in there, or a lot of the abstractions in there to do its job. And it's heavily based on events. If you like, I can give you a tiny glimpse of what the event system in Colony SDK looks like. It's a tiny bit more explanation to be done. So if you're interested, I can do that. Maybe I should just do it. And if you don't feel like watching that, I totally get it. Then you can just turn it off. But I do it for the recording. Let's quickly check back on this example and see if we're, yeah, now you can see that it has actually declined. We have fewer reputation points left because time went on. So that works. Yes, let me very quickly show you the colony events, and we have an example for that as well, which is which we can go through. So we could also do this now, but I don't want to. This is kind of it's a bit boring because then we have to go into the colony interface and things like that. But this is basically listening to colony events as they happen on XDAI. So we can put in a colony address and then listen to certain events that happen. In this case, it's listening to events that that is just one event, basically when a domain or team, as we call it, was added. So this is a very simple example. We just listen to one event on one colony, and that is the domain added event on this colony address that the user provided here. Basically, whenever a block happens, we listen to the block event on the provider. We get the events for the colony. I can explain a little bit more about that soon. And we're looking for a certain range of blocks here. So the whole code here is basically just telling us, oh, don't do it every block, because I think the block time is like 10 or 15 seconds on XDAI, so it's very, very fast. or 5 seconds even. I don't know. It's super fast. So we just don't want to overload it, and we just look every 5 blocks for a new event. For new events within these 5 blocks. What I did here is we have this colony events abstraction, which also only takes the ethos provider, and it can create multi-filter events. That means we can listen to different events on different colonies at the same time, and we just get them with one single request to the RPC node, which is nice. Otherwise, I think in the past you had to make a lot of RPC requests to get a lot of events, but like this, we can get a lot of different events across a lot of different colonies with just a single RPC request. And this is basically what this multi-filter does. And you only want to create event filters with this certain methodology here, because the colony event filters, or the colony event filters, they will also take care of the parsing of the event data for you. That means you don't have to try to figure out like what parameters there are, and like what are they called, or what types they are. You don't really have to worry about that so much. Colony SDK will take care of that for you. You cannot really see this in this case, but I can show you an example of where this is happening. So down here, you can see that whenever an event happens, we do this. So it will basically just paste the message here. And it says a domain with ID events, and this is just the first event that we're taking, and it has a data object. And in that data object, there you can see, like there you will find the parameters of this event. So here in this case, we get a domain ID for the newly created domain. That is all very interesting and also very well documented, I hope. I have that here in Colony Events. This is a separate class that you create. So you basically just wrap it around the provider. You don't get it from the Colony network. You just create it yourself. You can get it outside of the Colony network. And then you can see here is like all of the documentation that you need for multi-events, which is basically multiple events over a multitude of colonies, or single events, which is one event of one particular colony. On not necessarily colonies, but also the Colony network or any extensions that we have. So all of this is already working. Again, there's an issue. Where is it? We want to. I have not added this issue yet. So I want to make an issue for it so that we have a list. There should be an issue. Sorry. That's weird. Anyways, there should be an issue where it says we want to make a list of events that the Colony SDK supports, because in the end, we might not want to do all of the events at the same time, because a lot of the events are kind of only used internally, and people might not want to be intimidated by all these long list of events that can happen. Anyways, right now you can listen to all of the events, and maybe we'll just leave it like that. I'll see. So that is everything I wanted to do today. If you have any more questions regarding this, I kind of went through the last part a little bit fast, but I don't think it should be the main focus of this right now. I just wanted to show that it's there, that it exists, and then you can ask further questions about the Colony events if you're interested, or help with the Discord bot development. That would be fun. All right. So the question was, let me try to rephrase it. So the question was what the mechanism is for polling and how we get the events. Is that, yes, okay. So the Ethers provides this method whether, so the short answer is polling, yes. So Ethers provides this method where it has this on block thing. And I think it tries to be smart and figure out the block time, and then it tries to poll every few seconds to see whether there's a new block. And this is what Ethers provides for us. And whenever a new block happens, we can get all of the events that happened within this block, because we kind of limit it to a certain block amount. And this is exactly what Ethers also does internally, but because Ethers doesn't support our cool Colony multi events, I had to redo it here, but it's nothing much more than this. So Ethers is polling and trying to get events within a certain amount of blocks. Hope that answers your question. Cool. Any more questions? All right, then I guess we can call it a day. I hope this was useful to some of you. I guess I will put the recording up. Again, your voices were not recorded in this video. That's why also I repeated your questions for the stream. So just you're aware, yeah, you're not going to be in the stream and the recording. Cool. Thanks everyone for joining. That was fun. And maybe I'll see you for the next one. Thanks. Bye.